Okay, welcome back. We are here still with Brian Almon, Gem State Chronicle, and we are gearing up. It appears that they're trying to wrap up the legislative session by the end of this week. And so we wanted to get everybody up to speed on some of the bills that have stalled, some that have passed, and so forth. Brian, not to put you on the spot here again, but it just occurred to me, what are some of the good wins that happened with with some of the bills? Do you have any ones that have crossed the line that were good? I mean, I feel like there's definitely has been a couple. I mean, they passed the UBI this morning, banning UBI. That'll go to the governor's desk, as well as the governor signed the no public funds for transgender. I believe he signed that. No public funds for transgender surgeries. Any other wins that you could see from this legislative session so far, even if they're not bills, maybe they're processes or whatnot?
Well, I don't think he signed the gender transition one yet. However, I assume he will because last year after they passed the bill banning child gender transition, the governor actually sent a letter to IDHW telling them that public funds should not be used for this. So I assume he's on board with that. The needle exchange repeal went through and was signed. A couple of years ago, the legislature decided, okay, well, we'll give some money to these harm reduction nonprofits that try and help people who are on drugs by giving them, well, essentially drug paraphernalia, by giving them a safe place to shoot up and, swapping their needles and everything else. I don't know specifically which ones do which thing, but that's the idea. And, well, it turned out that enabling drug use does not actually help, people get off drugs. And in fact, it was just encouraging more of it. The Boise police raided the harm reduction place in Boise and found drug paraphernalia that they were handing out. And so they shut it down and they've repealed the law. They're probably going to try and come back next year, but we can have that debate at that time. So
yeah. And what was fascinating on a political level here, and you can see Representative Blanksma heading the charge to repeal this law that she led 5 years ago, getting implemented. It feels like she's trying to clean up her mess, which is good. I mean, it is a mess, as you just described. But this is that slippery slope that people, I'm sure if we went back in the archive, it'd be interesting to go back and watch the hearings and watch some of the people debate this bill of whether they thought where this thing was headed. Because looking at states and cities like Portland and Oregon and Los Angeles and New York City, Chicago, any large city where they do these needle exchange programs, it doesn't fare so well. I mean, they can bring out the data and say, oh, it reduces syphilis or it reduces AIDS and that sort of thing, but it certainly appears to add way more drug problems, drug issues, users issues.
Yeah, it really is a sign of where our society is. We're kind of at a very sick and decaying place, but that's a whole nother topic. If we're talking about good news,
yes,
Senator Herndon, remember he had the lawsuit against the city of Sandpoint because they leased out a public area to a private entity for an event, and then that private entity refused to allow them to carry guns. And the Supreme Court upheld that, saying, well, the law doesn't say that you can't do that. So, well, they pushed through a law now, and that passed, and it's awaiting the governor's signature, last I checked, that would say if you're a public, you have a public area, such as a public park or a public street, and it's opened up for an event, and it's a private entity running the event, they can't ban guns unless, there is a carve out there, unless it's a restricted entry event, such as you have to show a ticket or they only let in adults or something. If they restrict entry, then they can still ban guns. But if it's just a public event, they can't.
Yeah, like an art show or a farmer's market or something that just allows people to come and go as they please. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, that is a huge win. I know that was at top of mind. It was one of the first bills that Senator Herndon introduced this session. It went through a couple of different iterations, I think, and it may have been amended or brought back a couple of different ways, but he seems happy with it. I know the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance was all for it. We had Greg Pruitt on early in the session as well to talk about this from the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, as well as Senator Christy Zito. So yeah, this was a big win. Very good, very good win on that side. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, I wanted to get your perspective on the bombshells that came to a front yesterday during a hearing in the Senate State Affairs Committee on elections, and Senator Phil McGrain there was there with a bill to kind of strengthen the logic and accuracy testing of voting equipment, and a discussion kind of turned to some events that happened that were reported in the news back in October, late October, early November of last year when they were doing testing down in Canyon County. They went through and did photocopies through the machine in Canyon County, and they weren't rejected. They were accepted as if they were real ballots. Another bombshell, that's the first bombshell. The other bombshell was apparently, and this is the first time I heard it, so I'm still learning the facts of this and the fallout. Over in Fremont County, the e-poll books that everybody signs in on, when you show up to vote, you sign in on a tablet and show your ID. That poll book should have been, at this particular election, it should have been loaded with the rolls for a primary election, so a restricted, Republicans only type of roster. Well, apparently the general roster was uploaded to the e-poll book, and so you had Democrats voting, registered Democrats voting in a Republican primary, and it wasn't caught until after the fact. And again, we're still learning the details on this. But apparently that happened, and not nefariously. It was apparently done by mistake. It was done before Phil McGrain was even in office. And guys, do we have that clip where he talks about it? Okay, let's watch this real quick. Do you mind, Brian? Let's watch it.
Questions for you. To Jody's question, the e-poll book audit, why is that not included in this legislation?
Mr. Chairman, really because this chapter and section relates to voting equipment. It doesn't relate to the e-poll books. And so not to say there isn't merit for us to look at how we do that. We do test the e-poll books, but it's not as clearly defined as it is for the voting equipment. I welcome a further conversation on e-poll books.
So maybe legislation coming in the future. Second question is the issue that she raised versus the Democrats voting and the Republicans. I'm sure you're familiar with that issue. Did your office get involved in that? Did you do an investigation? And if so, what was the results?
Mr. Chairman, the issue that she specifically referred to, I am familiar with it. It was under Secretary Denny that it occurred. So I'm familiar with it on the back end, just like Ms. Arnold is. The issue was there was an error in the May primary in 2022 in Fremont County. And I think it was the certification of candidates is where the original error occurred. But it was close enough. Fremont County is a very small county. So the results were close enough that a new election was ordered to happen in August. And so the specific issue was the e-poll book had not been set up for a primary election because it was an August election when it should have been. And so that's at the core of the problem. I know that election was scrutinized closely after the fact, but it shouldn't have happened, in all honesty. So I'm familiar with it and have used that as a learning lesson as we move forward.
Good. Thank you.
So I'm still a little vague on what happened there, but for whether it was nefarious or whether it was a mistake, the wrong information was uploaded into the poll book there. What's your take, Ryan?
Well, I don't know much about that second incident with Democrats voting as Republicans. I know that's an issue that the Republican Party is very concerned with because it does happen. But it sounds like it was just a mistake that county clerk's office, they were supposed to redo a primary, but usually in August, it's not a primary. When they had August elections, it was just an open election that anyone could vote in. And so they programmed it wrong. In my experience here in Ada County as a poll worker, and I was a chief judge last year, we go through training. We learn how to use the poll books, and we learn how to manage the vote counting machine. You fill out the paper ballot with filling in the circles, and then you feed it through the machine. It counts it with the optical scanner. And each one, there's supposed to be numerous levels of accountability. And when we open up the e-poll books, we can't, as poll workers, can't actually do anything. It's all programmed at the clerk's office, and we're locked out. And so we can just open it up and look it up. We can't register to people to vote there or change their affiliation if they fill out the proper forms. So yeah, it sounded like that was probably just an error, and hopefully, as Secretary McGrain says, hopefully they are learning from it and using it to keep that from happening.
But errors don't happen in Idaho. We don't have errors here.
Well,
we don't have errors.
There's always errors, and the question is, because this is really a complicated system. We have 2 million people in the state, however many registered voters. We need to give them the proper ballot, or first we have to make sure that they're actually registered to vote. And then we have to give them the proper ballot. Sometimes it's really easy. It's just a single ballot. But other times, let's say you're doing a primary that also has that has precinct committeemen on the ballot, that also has a school bond on the ballot, or, whatever. The poll workers have to be trained well enough that they know, okay, the poll book says that you get this ballot. Let's make sure you get that ballot. It's your proper precinct, your proper party. Republican primary is closed. You have to be affiliated Republican to vote in it. The Democrat primary is not. You can just request a Democrat ballot, but you can't have both, obviously. And then, once you do, you run it through the scanner, and it scans. And so it is a complicated process, but with proper equipment and training, errors should be minimized. And if errors do occur, they should be mitigated. If something, there's contingencies just in case things go wrong. So the question when you look across the country at all these election integrity issues is, one, are they spending enough time and energy making sure to, the errors aren't going to happen because they have competent people in place who are honest and trustworthy and using equipment that is, open and transparent as to how it works. And then when errors do occur, are they making good faith efforts to fix them, or are they, just assuming that it's going to help their side and ignoring it?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of all what happened in Maricopa County in 2022, those long lines and those broken machines.
Well, this is what we're trying to avoid. So this morning, Representative Alfieri had the chance to pass a bill that would help set up a election crimes and security division or unit or just person in the AG's office, working out of there, so that when these things come up, we're not playing catch up. We're letting the Secretary of State run the election, right? Set everything up, make it sure it's properly, and then having our own AG office, if a crime or an accusation or something suspicious is happening, that they can come in and say, okay, what is everybody doing here from top to bottom? And that bill we saw that come this morning, I think we have that vote total. There it is, 34-36. So once again, the Democrats who I don't know where their mind is when it comes to this election stuff. It's like all of a sudden they used to be the biggest proponents of trying to have secure elections, and then all of a sudden they don't want to do anything that has to deal with elections other than make everything mail-in ballots and whatnot. But I digress. But here's the vote total: 34-36, and this bill fails. I mean, what's your take on here? What is going on?
Well, there were some questions about the bill. Should The Florida bill that Representative Alfieri based this on actually has the Office of Election Crimes within the Secretary of State's office, and so the Secretary of State here asked why not do it this way, and he had a good response. He said if a bank gets robbed, you don't call the bank manager to investigate and prosecute, you call the police. And so you need, and Representative Tanner, my representative, made a good point in debate that it's good to have an outside agency have oversight. However, I guess a lot of people weren't convinced by that, and we get this vote. It's what's really weird to me. If you look at that vote, the people who voted against an Office of Election Crimes in the Attorney General's office are also the same people who vote against getting rid of obscene materials out of libraries. It's weird how these factions just work out. And they end up sticking together over things that have nothing to do with each other. It almost is like it is factional rather than actually on the merits.
Yeah. And this is why elections are so important. And especially May 21st here in Idaho, the primary election is very important because, you flip a few of those seats on the 36 side and things can move even more quickly. And on the Senate side, the Senate side is even more important as we've seen how bills just die over there. So.
Well, I heard that the vote to replace Senator Winder as pro tem last time was very, very close, maybe even just one vote. So that's how close conservatives were to, not necessarily having somebody of the Scott Herndon level as pro tem, but somebody who is much more conservative and open to working with conservatives than Senator Winder has been. And so imagine how things would have been different if that one vote had gone differently. And that's why every seat is important. Every primary is important. Is this person you're looking at in the Republican primary in your district? Are they going to vote for more big government, more government overreach, more establishment, go along to get along, or are they going to upset the apple cart by standing for conservative principles?
Right. All right, Brian. Well, we're running out of time here. Let everybody know where we can find you and connect with you and keep in tabs. We've got it scrolling at the bottom, but I always like to have you say it.
Yeah, follow me at Gemstate Brian on Twitter or X. Subscribe at gemstate.substack.com and see all my work and more at gemstatechronicle.com, in addition to the new primary pulse, where I am putting up profiles of every candidate in the Republican legislative primary. I'm working on the Senate right now. I finished the House the other night. And so you can see them, compare them, and make a good decision.
Fantastic. All right, Brian, thanks for hanging out with me for half the show today. That was awesome. I know the viewers really enjoyed it. I got a call yesterday from somebody who says, I watch Idaho Signal all the time, and then I only read Brian Almon. So we're killing it out there, Brian. Good work. We'll see you next time. All right, guys, we're running up on the end of the program here. I want to thank you for joining us. Head over to idahosignal.com if you want to support the show or send us a brief message and tell us how awesome we're doing over here. Thank you for watching over on X, on Rumble, YouTube, and Telegram. Your comments and your support is greatly appreciated. This is the final week, folks. We'll see what happens after this week if they need to continue, but we're running into our few final episodes of the session. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.